Alright, what's going on everybody? Welcome back to another video here on the channel, and today we're going to be talking about, or I should say, giving an update to the entire Completionist or Gerard charity scandal that's been going on right now. I first made a video talking about this a few weeks ago. That was kind of when everything first happened, right? That was when like the first videos by Karl Jobst and Some Ordinary Gamers, also known as Mutahar, came out, right? And all the initial stuff was brought up, you know, like the public IRS tax documents and all these different things, and that was when everything was still fresh. Since that video came out a few weeks ago, I believe both of them have now uploaded several update videos. At least I know that Some Ordinary Gamers has, and I believe after the Completionist or Gerard's response, they're both working on response videos now to him. I don't know, it's a mess, it really is. It's turned into a complete mess, but we did get about a 20-minute long video from Gerard the other day on Twitter, and I think that that was probably what really caused this video to get made, because he pretty much like goes out and he talks about all these things that have just obviously been in the news for a while now, right? You know, the fact that the charity wasn't donating the money that was being given to it by all these people for all these years. Gerard goes into like the status of their public organization status from the IRS. He addresses some of the other little discrepancies and whatnot, such as there being no physical signature on the tax documents because he e-filed, which obviously if you e-file, there's no physical signature. So he basically made a video where he talked about all these different things, right? He even apologized in this video because he openly admitted that, yeah, he mismanaged the funds when he was running this charity. He misled people by telling them basically that the money was getting donated when it wasn't. So there's kind of both in this video, right? Like he does apologize and like kind of address the real heat of the video, right? Which I think is obvious. Everyone was kind of mad, more or less, that the money was being held onto by this charity for all these years and it wasn't actually getting donated. So he addresses that. He talks about the other things that they brought up and whatnot to defend himself. At the end, he kind of like mentions legal action against the people who have like slandered him and whatnot. And it's been pretty interesting to see like the how the public reaction for this video has kind of went, right? Because most of the time in YouTube history, when somebody uploads a video after a scandal like this, right, where they literally admit that they did these things, right, where they have to actually come out and apologize for doing them, and then have to step down from running their own charity, right, because of it. Usually when that kind of stuff happens, the internet, like, is ready to shame them, and understandably so. I mean, I don't care what anyone says. When we're talking about charity funds and people are donating money under the guise that it's going to as serious of a health condition as, like, dementia is in this instance, you really have no room for failure. You know what I mean? You really have no room for screw-ups. And I mean, to pretend like not donating this money for all these years was not a colossal mistake and a horrific lapse in judgment, to quote Logan Paul, by Gerard and his charity, right? But he admits it and he apologizes about these things. And even though, like, he literally admits basically to the main point of all the criticism about this charity stuff and steps down from the charity as a result of this entire thing, right? There's actually people who, like, think he did completely nothing wrong and they're, like, actually attacking Mutahar and Karl Jobst over their videos. And I don't get it, like, because, I mean, let's be real here, right? There are things in their videos and their thumbnails and whatnot about this situation that are definitely worth critiquing and talking about. I'll talk a little bit more about that later in the video. But to pretend like they just simply made hit pieces for the sake of making hit pieces with no information or no legitimate proof, and like their videos didn't literally force Gerard's hand into donating all this money, right? That's just a completely uninformed or a malicious take at that, right? Because these people are just clearly ignoring any context of what happened, right? So yeah, he apologizes for mismanaging the money and basically lying to all the people who donated, because for all these years, right, he's been collecting money since like 2014 with all this, right? And no money was ever donated up until like the last week or two after these videos by Mutahar and Karl Jobst came out accusing them of all these things, like, hey, this money is not getting donated, there's some weird stuff going on in the tax filings and stuff like that, right? You know, ever since then, right, I mean, I feel like it's been apparent that a lot of people have just been defending Gerard because they don't actually understand what's going on, or they just actually don't care that he did something wrong because they like him, okay? And I have a couple examples I'm going to bring up here. Fuck Muta, fuck Karl, fuck the people in the replies who are seething with cope because their latest hit target came with receipts. Let the IRS investigate if they want to. Sounds like Gerard has all the receipts he'll need. Okay, I don't want to discredit discredit Gerard's video entirely because, I mean, it was definitely a better response than he could have given, but let's not pretend he came with like all these ludicrous amounts of receipts, right? Like the main points that were made against him, which once again were he hasn't donated any of the money that he's been raising for charity in 9 years, and he's been openly telling people that he's working with several medical foundations and whatnot in an effort to collect more money for donations when he knows actively that he's not. Which means he's just openly lying to the people donating, right? He openly admits this in his video. Like, he actually apologizes for it in the video that this guy quote tweeted within the first, like, 3 minutes of the video. So it only takes you 180 seconds or so of watching this video to realize that the main criticism and the main point made against Gerard has already been conceded. He admitted to it. They held on to the money for 9 years. They said, we needed to find a charity that we really thought it should go to that didn't have high administrative costs and whatnot, which sounds like a valid excuse on paper, but it took him 9 years. It took him 9 whole years to find a charity that worked. And in that meantime, you know, when he is looking for these charities and whatnot, he's still telling people openly at events and whatnot where he's garnering donations that the money has already been donated. So these people are now giving him more money under the guise that the other money has already been taken care of and is donated and helping people. So I'm confused on how this is like a Muta and Karl issue, right? Like why they're the ones now getting all of the fucking heat for this situation, and you have people acting as if Gerard did literally nothing wrong when he openly admits the opposite in his apology video. This has aged so bad that Gerard not only did nothing wrong, but he's taking legal action against people who slandered him and his family. These cannot be people who actually watched any of the fucking videos. Like, these people dead serious had to just like see that Gerard uploaded a response to the situation to Twitter and whatnot, scrolled past it, and then just started tweeting. Because to say Gerard did nothing wrong is just objectively not true. He admitted that he did wrong several times in that video that you talked about right there. Once again, he admitted he never donated any of the money for 9 fucking years. Which is, by the way, almost as long as my whole career on YouTube, okay? While telling people that the money was already donated and that any other money they were donating was going to these causes already. He admitted to that. So yes, he did wrong. He did definitely do something wrong. Like, why are people acting as if, like, just holding on to charity money for a fucking decade and then getting called out by people saying, hey, you're not donating any of that money, right? And then after like 2 weeks, they scurry and donate the money out or whatever, right? And get rid of it all and say, oh, well, we donated the money finally. We found somebody. How does that equate to doing no wrong? Like, we all know damn good and well that if Mutahar and Karl never uploaded their videos talking about what was going on here, that money would still be sitting in a fucking account. Like, do you really think that it took Gerard and these guys 9 years to apparently find a charity that was worth donating to, and that, you know, in those 9 years that they couldn't find one, all of a sudden within the last 2 weeks now, they were just magically gonna scrape one together? I mean, the last fucking 1,000 weeks of their lives or whatever, they couldn't find one, but suddenly, you know, this was the one where they just scraped it all together. I wonder if there was any sort of major controversy or something that may have actually kind of, you know, pushed that process along a little bit. I highly appreciate Gerard being transparent as he can in a 20-minute video will allow, but I'm still pissed, and not at Gerard. I'm pissed that a clickbait YouTubers have forced the Completionist to remove its charity function from Indieland. You are actually mad at the people who called out the dude for not donating money to charity for almost a decade. You're mad at them for saying that, and as a result, the guy admitting that he did what they said and then stepping down from his own charity. You're more mad at the people who called him out than the guy who held on to charity money for a decade and was lying to everybody about donating it, because after he finally got caught and caught out for it, he stepped down from his charity work. How do these people even fucking justify thinking shit like this? Like, I'm pissed that a clickbait YouTuber forced the Completionist to remove the charity function. I don't know, maybe I'm misinformed here. Did Mutahar and Karl Jobst all the way back in 2014 go to Gerard's house with a fucking Draco and tell him, hey, if you donate any of that money you collect in the next decade, we're coming back and hitting everybody in this motherfucker, bro? Like, how did they force him to remove his charity function from Indieland because he decided to not donate money for a decade and got caught? How is that their fault? How is that their issue that happened? I feel like people are just completely forgetting the main focus of this whole thing, right? Like, if Gerard just donated the money like he was supposed to this whole time, the videos would have never have been made. There would have never have been a controversy. People would have never have called his character into question, and none of this would have ever happened. But of course, the people who get the blame in this situation is everybody but the person who incited it. And then another big thing that a lot of these people are not like pointing out, or they refuse to address if anyone points it out to them, is the fact that a very good portion of all of that money in that decade raised by Gerard actually disappeared. It literally disappeared. And it didn't disappear because Gerard or his family pocketed it, or it didn't disappear because the charity was doing something nefarious. It disappeared because of basic economic principles. So let me go ahead and educate people who don't have money in a bank account or anything how money works. So there's this really kind of shitty little thing that happens with money called inflation, okay? So let me dumb this down for the people who refuse to actually understand any points here. Inflation is an economic thing that happens, right? Let's say you got $100 right now, okay? And let's say you want to buy $100 worth of groceries. Well, it's 2023, okay? So you got your $100 and you got your $100 worth of groceries. There you go. Okay, well, in 2033, 10 years from now, right? Let's say you try to take that same $100 and buy the same $100 worth of groceries. That will no longer be possible because that $100 of money has lost value over time due to inflation. Usually inflation in the US dollar market, it goes anywhere from like 2 to 4 to 5% per year, kind of depending on a lot of different economic situations and whatnot, right? Inflation is notably pretty bad in the last year or two here. And so your $100 now will only, at that point, get you, let's say, $70 worth of groceries, okay? So in this case, you know, there was $600,000 or whatever, okay, in this charity situation. That's the number that everyone's been bringing up a lot. Let's say you have $600,000 in 2016, okay? You would have lost roughly, according to this inflation calculator at least, you would have lost roughly $170,000 worth of value on that money. So basically, the longer your money just sits in a bank account and does nothing, doesn't get spent, doesn't get invested, whatever, right? You actually end up losing money because of that in the long run due to inflation. So as that money that Gerard has never donated sat in like their charity accounts and whatnot for all these years, it has undeniably lost tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of value just because it wasn't getting donated. I mean, to pretend like Gerard did absolutely nothing wrong and like this was just, you know, a big nothing burger is just objectively not true. A lot of money that could have done a lot of good for a very serious issue was withheld for a very long time. People were lied to about the happenings with that money, being told that it was being donated when it wasn't. They were being told that Gerard was partnering with different charities and medical foundations through the website and whatnot that he knew for a fact he was not partnering with at that time. And all of this money was only donated after all of this attention came. So for the people who are like, oh, you know, this whole thing was a nothing burger, that's just not true. Now to wrap all of this up, right, do I believe that Gerard and his family embezzled money? Do I believe that they committed legitimate like tax fraud or they were really trying to just like steal this money or whatever really? No, I don't. I think it was a complete gross mismanagement, and instead of either managing it correctly or admitting it was gross mismanagement at the time, Gerard and whoever else just lied. They just tried to cover their ass. They tried to kick the can down the road as far as they could, and eventually it got caught up in the wind and everybody knew about it, and then all of a sudden that's when it was react time, you know? That's what it really seems like to me. I just think it was perhaps one of the worst cases of charity mismanagement we've ever seen on YouTube. And as far as any legal action against like Mutahar or Karl in this instance, right? I don't really know how that's going to work out. He didn't really mention like what specifically he'd be trying to fight in terms of like allegations or whatever. You know, he just kind of says whoever basically like tried to lie about me and my family and the damage that they've done, which it's pretty much like Karl and Muta that he's talking about here, but I don't really know. I mean, I don't even know if he's actually going to sue him. He didn't outright say it. I don't want to fucking sit here and speculate on it too much. I don't think it's the best idea, and not just because like I think that he wouldn't win in court. Honestly, I don't really know, but I just think that honestly at this point it's kind of just not a good idea, like in terms of all the optics of it and whatnot, right? Like you already openly admitted that you didn't donate any of that money and whatnot. I mean, like the main point has already been made, I feel like. And yeah, these guys are going to continue responding. Like I'm pretty sure Muta and Karl, like I said, they're working on response videos or whatever. Muta claimed on Twitter that he found another discrepancy in this entire thing. But just like between now and my first video, how it's been several weeks before, you know, I've the only time I really talked about it again is after Gerard responded. It's just one of those things where if there's ever any other major update in it, I guess that's when it'll be worthy to talk about again. But I mean, as of right now, it seems like, for me at least, the main things that I was concerned about have already been apologized for and addressed. I mean, people also, to kind of wrap this up, people have been making a big point about how Mutahar and them basically, quote-unquote, mobilized their audiences against Gerard, and I don't know if I agree with that one, man. I mean, people are acting as if, like, they fucking sent their audiences to harass this guy, and that's not really what happened. What really happened was they said, hey, given the discrepancies in the tax filings, given all of the, questions that we have about all this, go and file a report with, like, I think it was the California state government, right? The California IRS or tax department, whatever, right? Go file a report with them, which, by the way, that is not illegal. It's not illegal to say, hey, if you think a crime is being committed or you think that there's gross mismanagement of charity funds, it's not wrong to be like, you should report that to the government. I mean, he's running a public charity, according to his video, right? And I mean, if you're gonna run something like that, you open yourself up to the fact that, yeah, you can be audited by the IRS. You can be investigated, right? There's nothing really wrong, I feel like, with people, if they're genuinely concerned, having the government investigate that, right? Because it's not like they're making this shit up, There is actual discrepancies. There was a lot of issues. There was a lot of questions around all of this. Anyway, man, with all that being said, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like. Subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel. Follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubToOptimus. Make sure to check out Shoptimus down below. Thank you to my Watch Optimus subscribers. Your support helps the channel tremendously. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, talking about the Gerard charity situation and signing out.